Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Tracey Devlyn, and I'm here with New York Times bestseller Nita Prose to talk about her newest addition to the Maid series, The Maid's Secret. Welcome to the show, Nita.
Thank you, Tracy. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, I am very ecstatic to have you here too. Believe it or not, The Maid's Secret is my first Nita Prose book, and I can absolutely see why this series has collected so many adoring fans. Molly and her team of amateur sleuths, they were such a delight, and I really loved reading the thread in this story about Gran. I thought that was great, and I think I read someplace that you wrote more about Gran for your readers. Did I read that correctly, or yeah? You want to talk about that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I listen very carefully to my readers. I don't really feel like I'm a solo creator. I
Mm,
feel like I create with my readers. I put these sort of like bare outlines on the page, but it's actually up to the reader to complete the picture, to build
okay.
the world, to understand the characters, to bring their knowledge of hotels into it so
Yeah.
that they see with their imaginations.
Hmm.
So when my readers speak to me, I listen. And one of the things they said over and over again was A, we want more Molly, and B, we want more Gran.
Yeah.
And when you hear that over and over again, it behooves you to listen as the creator. And because so often those fans and those readers are onto something.
Hmm.
And so then the question is, how do you deliver more without delivering less?
Yeah.
And so for me, I created a heist novel, not a murder mystery this time in the present tense. And in the past, we get to meet Gran. In the present, we meet Molly, but in the past, we meet Gran in an epic, star-crossed, Downton Abbey-esque style love story that explains a
Yeah.
lot of things more in depth that have happened in the previous books.
Yeah, I really loved it. I just both stories were very captivating, but I come from a romance novelist background, so Grand Story held a really special place in my heart, and I liked how you started each of her chapters. So it wasn't it you didn't have a date in there, you didn't have before, anything like that starting out the chapter. It was just, dear Molly or my dearest Molly or something like that. And you knew exactly right away that you were in Grant's POV. And so I thought that was brilliant. Was that your idea, or did you talk about that with your publisher, or how did that come about?
No, that was my idea. I had learned from the mystery guest that I could use a past and present structure in order to
Mhm.
find more narrative tapestry, and also to do what I really love to do, which is mix genres.
Mm.
I like to what I call Frankenstein a book, which
I
which means
love
I
that.
like to combine genres. I don't do just one thing. So I will always
Yeah.
have the mystery in each one of these books, The Maid, The Mystery Guest, and The Maid's Secret. They all have the mystery in the forefront. But there's
Hmm.
always another genre attached to the backstory. So as I just mentioned in The Maid's Secret, that is a massive epic love story.
Hmm.
But in The Maid, we had the mystery in the present tense of who killed Mr. Black. But in the past, or sorry, in the overall scope of the book, we also have a kind of feel-good fiction, or what the Brits, and I love this term that the Brits use, they call it uplifting literature.
Ah,
This
nice.
story that moves you through a journey of the character. It might be difficult as you go through, but it's going to leave you feeling like your heart grew three sizes by the end, a journey of the
Yeah,
spirit, you know?
yeah.
And so that's what I did with the first book. So for me, the answer to how to find more narrative territory is, to combine past and present and to combine genres.
Yeah, no, it was great. Is there anything else? You gave a little bit of an introduction about the story itself. Is there anything else that you can tell us, or can or want to tell us about the Maid's Secret before we dive into some more topics that I have?
Well, it's funny when you're writing a series like this that exists in a hyper real world, not in a real place.
Yeah.
I always think to myself, there's no reality in my books, right? It's extremely hyper real. It's not an actual place. And yet, every time I finish a book, I realize that there are elements of reality that I didn't intend, I never saw while I was writing. They're so
Yeah.
subconscious. And one of those things is my fascination with antiques and Antique Roadshow, you
Mm,
know, and the notion of finding a piece of junk that turns out to be something
yeah.
life-changingly, life-alteringly precious. And that's another thread that we see enacted in this book. So, I love going to garage sales. I love, the garbage people throw out the road and say, "Here, free, take this." This is like my world. This is how I grew up. And so for me, that the fairy tale, the romance of like finding an item that might be worth millions of dollars, which of course is what happens for Molly,
Yes.
was so romantic and beguiling. And then there's reality thrown in as well. I mean, the Fabergé egg, when Russia was overthrown in 1918, most of those incredible works of art with their precious jewels
Mm,
and their gold and their incredible craftsmanship, most of those eggs were accounted for. We know where they are now. Most are in
mm.
museums, some in private collections, except for five of them. There
Ah.
are five eggs that to this day are out there in the world and we don't know where they are.
Except for now. Now we know where one is, right?
Well, exactly. So for me, this is like a
Yeah.
treasure
Yeah.
trove
Yeah.
of fictional possibilities.
Yeah.
And, I thought about that and I use that as part of the narrative construct for this book.
Now, where did the idea of the Fabergé egg come from? Why did you decide that out of everything else that you could have chosen for Molly's little hidden treasure?
Well, in the previous book, she has no idea. Like, she just thinks it's a little piece of junky trinkets, some sort of
Okay.
replica that's sitting on the shelf, that
So
her
that's my
grandma.
that's okay. So it was
Yeah,
in previous books. That's my
it
ignorance of not having
was.
read other stories. Okay, great. All
And
right.
there's a little running joke between her and Gran. They call their bank account the Fabergé.
Okay.
So,
All right. All
and
right.
unfortunately, their Fabergé in a previous book gets stolen as well in a different kind of way, meaning their bank account.
Yeah.
But it's sort of this running mythology through their lives, and Gran is always sort of known a little bit more than Molly did about that.
Okay. Okay. Nice. Now, since as we've established here, this is my first book that I've read, I'm going to assume Molly and Juan Manuel's love story blossomed over the course of the first few books. I love their care and dedication to each other. I was so glad that you had that thread with them.
Oh, thank you. Well, they are such a lovely couple, and Molly is different, Her and Juan is someone who understands intuitively, instinctively, that difference doesn't mean lesser than, that
Yeah.
somebody's differences can be their greatest strengths. And
Hmm.
so he responds to Molly and falls hopelessly in love with her, and vice versa. And we have this beautiful couple that we can root for from the beginning of the series right to the end.
Yeah. Yeah, Molly and Juan, they're very accessible, as are all the cast members. They're very accessible. They're people that you can really relate to. Now, I like all sorts of mystery and thriller, so this is not a diss, but I don't have anything in common with a SEAL, a military SEAL. Somebody who was in
Me
the military,
neither, Tracy.
those types of things. So I thought that that was one of the things that really drew me into the story was the accessibility of all of the cast.
Oh, well, that's really lovely to hear. I wanted to create reader or characters that were archetypes in a lot of ways. The maid, the bartender, the hotel manager,
Mm,
etc. And we would see them as sort of cardboard cutouts at the beginning, almost cliches. But if I've done my job right, as we move from book to book, and certainly by the time
yeah.
we get to the Maid's Secret, those cardboard cutouts aren't so static anymore. They actually turn into
Mhm.
living, breathing human beings that we can root for and hope for or despise, depending on who they are.
What is it that you hope readers think about long after they close the covers of The Maid's Secret?
Well, my goal is to unburden the reader from the grave difficulty of reality.
Hmm.
We're living in hard times. We have big burdens on our shoulders all the times. The news cycle is relentless, and anxiety producing, no matter, what happens day to day, month to month, year to year. And my goal with this fiction was to move you through a story that does have a lot of suspense elements and hopefully keeps you on the edge of your seat. But by the end of it, through this journey, you end with a spirit of hope. Now, hope and a murder mystery don't often go together. But again, for me, that was my challenge as a writer to again Frankenstein two things together that seem very, very unusual, but hopefully leave the reader feeling bigger, warmer, more compassionate, and more empowered to bring that feeling, that true feeling of the cozy, a bigger heart, compassion, kindness for others with differences into the world and activate that in reality in their own lives.
Yeah, well, mission accomplished. I think you did
I
a great
hope
job
so.
with it.
We can't hold on to that every day in every possible way.
Yeah,
But if it can give us a little lift and a little boost, that's what I want.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Is there a story that you would love to write, but you just haven't taken the plunge for whatever reason?
Well, there are all kinds of stories I would love to write. I'm 52 years old and I'm only coming to no writing novels in my own name at this point in my life. So I have a
Yeah.
whole host of stories and characters that are clamoring for, attention in my mind. I do think that characters where I sit best. So for me, I get very curious about a character and then I want to follow that path. I think I'm a genre bender, and I think whatever I do in the future will be a mystery attached to something else. I can't
Hmm.
say that it might be cozy again. It might be entirely different. It will be a mystery for sure, but maybe a different kind of mystery, maybe
Yeah.
not so cozy.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, great. Tell us about a recent book that you've read and loved and maybe why.
I just read Broken Country by Claire Leslie Hall.
Hmm.
I was blown away by that book.
Great.
It is an artful novel about grief on the one hand, and a beautiful depiction of new love and how the entrancement of new love can carry and last throughout a lifetime. It can make you do and experience wonderful things, and it can make you do really terrible things.
Yeah.
And that tie between grief and love is something that is really intimately explored in this book, while at the same time, the story mechanism and the characters are absolutely compelling. It is an incredible page turner, and it has so much depth. I was blown away by that book, just
Okay.
absolutely gobsmacked. Yeah.
Wonderful. All right. Well, there's a great recommendation there, folks.
I highly recommend it to any readers who liked The Paper Palace or Where the Crawdad Sings.
Hmm.
Yeah, that is your next sort of book club style book. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, the last question I have here is just a little bit of a fun one. Is there, like, do you have a favorite place that you like to write, or do you have any rituals that you do to get yourself in the right mindset before you sit down and write?
I do. I like to write right here, actually.
Okay.
So that is my favorite spot to write, is like sitting in this little room with my books behind me and my screen in front of me, and off I go. But when I'm really in it, I have this exceedingly ugly hoodie sweater that I wear, and I'm when I'm in and I do not want to be disturbed, I will pull up the hood and I will like tie the string so you only see this. I
Yeah.
look absolutely ridiculous, but there's something focusing about that. When I'm in the tunnel of narrative, I want to stay there. And
Yeah.
that strange act of putting that hood up on that god awful ugly sweater somehow helps me remain in the moment and really dedicate myself to it. So that is my extremely weird ritual. I won't put it on for you because it's so ugly. Like it is so hideous and tatty and grotesque at this point. But I'm very attached to that sweater.
Well, maybe you can get a picture of you in it from afar so that we don't get all of the ratty-tatty of the
Yes.
outfit that you have, the hoodie, sorry. So yeah, no, that'd be great. Nita, before we go, can you tell us what's up next for you? Do you have any fun projects or things like that you can talk about?
Yeah, I'm working on my next novel at the moment. So The Maid's Secret is going to be, at least for now, the last in the series. Who knows,
Okay.
maybe in 10 years I'll come back and do another one. But right now I'm closing that, and Molly
All right.
belongs to my readers. And I am working on a mystery thriller, which is set in a sort of cottage country by a lake. And it features an older woman who's a grandmother. Her kids come up to visit her, grandkids come up to visit her, and they find something in the woods by her lakeside lodge. And that undoes her because with that thing that they find comes a buried secret that she has not wanted anyone to discover and she hoped
Mhm.
she would die with. So, this is a novel about the natural world and how it can both heal and destroy. It is a love story. It's about new love for sure, and the lasting impact of secrets on generation after generation after generation. So that's what I'm working on now. So
Wow.
we've got a main character that is not unlike Molly in some ways. She's very prickly. She's difficult to get to know, but hopefully, if I do my job right, you will come to love her. But again, slightly different because it's not very cozy.
Yeah. No, that sounds amazing. The natural world, the love story, and then you got the element of a suspense in there. That sounds like my perfect read right there. So
Oh, good. Well, and
I
I'm
hope.
counting you as an early reader, Tracey.
Oh, thank you. I would love to do that. I'd love to see you back on here again sometime in
That
the
would
near
be
future.
lovely.
Well, folks, when this episode airs, The Maid's Secret will be out, so be sure to order your copy today. You can check out Nita's website at nitaprose.com. Nita, what social media outlets are you most active on?
You can find me on Instagram at Nita Prose. That is where I am most active.
Okay.
So
All right, great. Thanks a ton, Nita. It was an absolute pleasure reading The Maid's Secret and chatting with you about Molly and the gang. Again, thank you so much for joining me today.
thank you, Tracey.
You betcha. Many thanks to everyone listening. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I'll be back soon with another great read.